Okay, great. Well, I can kick it off, and then Jerry can add some insight and depth. And we're still fleshing the concept out, but it's very much in line and inspired by the TREX model that Jeremy just highlighted. In fact, Jeremy was one of the participants and key participants in our exchange. And so essentially, through our Fire Adaptive Communities Learning Network work plans, we identify the need for direct interaction between appropriate scale fire departments to accelerate our learning curve in relation to both generally wildland-urban interface, but how we can contribute to the fire adapted communities model most effectively, and understanding that the environment sometimes that fire departments learn in best and most comfortably can be a peer-to-peer type environment where they feel open dialogue, a willingness to ask each other the tough questions that we need to be asking. And so initially the city of Austin hosted Boise Fire Department to come down and visit with us. And I would like to say that Wendy was integral in making the exchange a success, both from helping with the logistical planning, providing insight on questions that we could develop in advance to address key issues, and equally as important, helping us capture the lessons learned from that exchange through the video that some of you may have seen, but also through the great blog posts that Jerry followed up with. And so it started out with Jerry, who y'all know is the mitigation specialist for the Boise Fire Department, their operations chief, Brad Boland, and member of their local fire adaptive communities team with BLM, Josh Renz. And I think if I would have one idea that probably, or one statement that summarized the exchange was the accelerated learning model. And I think that fire departments across the country are facing similar challenges. Many of us are waking up and facing the reality of wildland-urban interface being a permanent fixture in our culture. And I can say I'm at the FRI conference, and our fire chief Kerr was just inaugurated as the new president, and one of her main talking points is that we have to be integrated departments, and wildland-urban interface is our job and our responsibility. And so I think in the fire community as a whole, we're seeing an awakening to that, and certainly what the folks out west are experiencing right now reinforces the need for that collective rapid learning. And so some of the overarching goals, as I mentioned, were to identify key needs amongst the two departments and work to align our exchanges to address those needs. And it wasn't limited to the departments themselves. On the Boise exchange, we got to meet a lot of the partners, and Jerry can go into that. On our end, we had a specialist with our watershed protection division spend the week with us. We had personnel from our water utility join us and review joint projects, fuels projects that we're working on, and prescribed fire efforts. And we integrated University of Texas Wildflower Center, one of our key coordination partners for prescribed fire, in the exchange as an example of one of our FAC partners that's embodying both the Fire Adaptive Communities Learning Network, but to some degree a reflection of our prescribed fire coordination efforts. So for us, the goal of bringing the Boise Fire Department in was twofold. We wanted to learn from the mitigation side of the house about unique practices that they were implementing, but equally important is we wanted our department members and area partners for the fire service to hear from their operational folks how mitigation adds value to their operational goals, objectives, and ability to accomplish the tasks at hand through a coordinated mitigation effort focused on enhancing operational effectiveness. And that's something we really wanted the members, leadership of our department to hear, is that what we do in mitigation matters when they show up, and it can be most effective when it's based on a feedback loop that helps us align our efforts with their needs. So that was certainly one of our overarching goals for the direct exchange. And I think more broadly, that's probably a universal goal amongst the FACE Fire exchange, is to have a department-wide understanding and acceptance of mitigation as a value we can add to the fire service. And so I'd like to let Jerry kind of give his initial impressions of the exchange, and I'll be quiet for a minute.
Hey, thanks, Justice. No, that was great. And again, I'm just forewarning everybody out there, I'm dealing with lack of sleep from being up on 2 fires and very little coffee, so please bear with me. So, you know, the initial, again, just talked about the initial, you know, work plan for last year, Colorado Springs. This was kind of born out of that, you know, FAC Learning Network work plan, where we kind of hatched this idea to share, you know, our experiences and learn from one another, both on a mitigation kind of standpoint, you know, what we were doing with our area partners and that kind of thing, but also operationally how we were set up. City of Boise currently doesn't have a wildfire division. City of Austin does. We really wanted to see how their, you know, wildland fire division was set up, how they operated, what they did in that regard, and also some of the fuel treatments that they were doing. And so, you know, their operations division does both operations, wildland firefighting, but they also do a lot of shaded fuel breaks and different things of that nature, along with prescribed fire, which we don't do. You know, we want to do prescribed fire, but we want to put that tool back in our toolbox, but we don't know how to do that. And so the exchange provided us an opportunity to go to Austin, learn about what they were doing, how they were, you know, structured organizationally, and then for them to come to Boise and meet with our partners and see what we were doing, which was different, you know, such as goat grazing and that kind of thing. So there are very different fuel types between Austin and Boise, but there's a lot of similarities in, you know, what we have to do to effectively, you know, reach out to stakeholder groups, you know, homeowners and that kind of thing. And so it was a very enriching experience, I believe, on both our parts. When we did go to Austin, you know, Justice made sure that the homeowners were involved. We got to talk to homeowners who worked with the fire department, and we got to meet with area stakeholders, and we provided that same opportunity for Justice and his crew when they came up to Boise. And so in terms of the overarching goals, again, just kind of learning, creating efficiencies and building capacities for FAC-related activities in our jurisdiction and the sphere of stakeholder influence that we have. And then I want to get down to the bottom question there. So in this last year's workshop, when we were down in Santa Fe, and I want to shout out to Porfirio there. It's good to hear his voice. Anyway, you know, Santa Fe did a good job hosting us, and, you know, but through those meetings, we were talking about this, you know, fire-adapted community exchange for fire departments, and we threw it and lumped it in the mix with the community of practice for the fire service, and, you know, because we really didn't know how that was all going to work out and flesh out. And the two are going to end up working well together. As Michelle had mentioned, we had a meeting here in Boise last week with Pam Leschek and Sean Stokes from the IAFC, and Nick and Michelle and Justice and I and a few others were in the room. But so the COP, or the community practice for the fire service, will encompass, all the fire service agencies that want to be involved in it, from the Florida State Fire, Forestry, and Austin and Boise and whomever else wants to be involved in that. A lot of the lessons learned and things that we glean from that community of practice will be brought into the Fire Adapted Community Exchange for fire departments. And, fire departments have a unique opportunity. We can go and kick in someone's door and destroy their house, and at the end of the day, they thank us and they bring us brownies to the station, the next shift. And there's a huge amount of trust that the community has in us, and that provides a huge opportunity for us to build stakeholder groups and to reach out to the community. And there's, specific nuances that are unique to the fire service or unique to fire departments, career fire departments that we need to flesh out and become more efficient at in terms of spreading the fire adapted community message. And so really the community of practice for the fire service and FACE Fire go hand in hand. They will complement one another. And I think I've kind of rambled on there a bit. Justice, you want to add anything?
No, I think you said it very well. It's an effort for the fire departments to play an important role in the overall fire community, and to do so in a way that's aligned with the culture of the fire departments, which all aware is paramilitary and a little bit different than maybe some of the other partners that you might work with, and our culture changes differently sometimes than other cultures. So having that unique ability to, if you will, shift that culture internally to align with our external fire community, I think will help enable us to be the best partners that we can be. And I think if we can go to the next slide. Great. And I think Jerry spoke to this quite well. But I would like to jump to the second bullet of who will the exchange benefit, and how the overarching goal is for the exchange model to benefit the fire adapted communities model, to help us own and embody our role in the cohesive strategy as being an effective firefighting force, which is very much contingent on the built environment we show up to and the natural environment, and it's interacting with that built environment. So I think what we'll see is broad impact, potential broad impact of the model beyond even the direct participants or the initial participants, through mechanisms like this, helpful webinar, fact sheets, and other ways that we can share these lessons learned to accelerate that learning. And so the way that I feel we're able to maximize the exchange, and one of the, I think, the revelations that both fire departments had at the end of the exchange process was there's still questions that we have, and two departments may not have all the answers, but additional members with key skill sets, or who are potentially further along the path in some area, might and would leverage that limited time that all of us have and maximize the impact of those exchange by assembling exchange oriented around predefined issues, and aligning departments who can contribute to that issue but also have a need in another area to close the gap on something that may be a weak link in their program or their ability to participate.
Great. Justice, there's a question in the chat from Rebecca. How is FACE Fire going to reach those departments that may not recognize mitigation as part of their role? Or is that something that the Fire Service COP will strive to do?
Hey, Justice, can I take a crack at that?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so the Fire Service COP will help with that, but for the Fire Deputy Community Exchange for fire departments, we're going to have a partnership with the International Association of Fire Chiefs, and they will be the vehicle for getting that message out to professional fire departments on a national and international level. And so the hope is that through IAFC webinars, through IAFC, like the WUI conference in Reno, presentations, and through informational, brochures or whatever they end up doing, they'll be able to get a message out to a lot of fire departments that currently, the FAC Learning Network doesn't necessarily have ties with currently. And so a lot of the information that we get from communities of practice and working with the fire service as a whole, that information will be, pushed out and disseminated to the IAFC folks, through their various different channels, social media, again, webinars, presentations, and that sort of thing. So I think, again, COP and FACE Fire are going to be very complementary to one another, and we will have an opportunity to spread the Fire Adaptive Community message far and wide.